All right, kiddos. I hope you've been enjoying this series that I'm doing on the best mechs from the different factions in BattleTech. And, today we're going to continue that process with a look at the Lyran Commonwealth Armed Forces that defend House Steiner. Now, the stereotype of the LCAF is that they deploy a whole bunch of assault mechs and, use assault mechs for all kinds of purposes. And we'll see that that's reflected a little bit in these ratings, and a lot of the mechs that I'm going to rate as some of their best are indeed assault mechs. But we'll also see that they do have some very nice high-performing mechs at lighter weights as well. And the first one I wanted to look at is exactly one of those. I'm going to start out talking about what are some of the intro tech mechs that the Lyran Commonwealth deploys that are some of their best. So the first one I wanted to draw your attention to is the Griffin 1S. Okay, now this is a mech that is kind of a medium, as we often say, cavalry mech. Really, a way to put that is this is a mech that is designed to try to use jump and fast movement to make rear attacks against enemy mechs or side attacks against enemy vehicles. That's its primary role. And this mech is very similar to the Merrick Wolverine from this period in terms of having a large laser and two medium lasers as a kind of primary armament. It has a missile launcher as well, but its LRM-5 is a little bit less effective for its kind of cavalry purpose compared with the SRM-6 on the Merrick mech. So for that reason, I don't rate it quite as highly, but it's certainly a solid A-. For a 3025 mech, you definitely pay for what you get. So it's not a flat A in terms of battle value efficiency, but this mech has strong capabilities that not a lot of mechs have around this time. So I think it is worth the battle value for sure, especially if you're playing House Steiner. Now here's a mech, on the other hand, from the same period that is just an amazing deal for the battle value. And this is a mech that I like to play in many different eras of BattleTech, not just the 3025 period. You will see me taking this mech, during the Succession Wars era, but also during the Clan Invasion, during the Federated Commonwealth Civil War, and even later eras. The Thunderbolt 5SS, which is the Steiner Thunderbolt. This thing is super nice, even compared with the high bar set by the standard Thunderbolt S. It's got a PPC as its long-range weapon. That's a good one, right? And then short-range firepower-wise, it backs that up with 3 mediums, SRM-6 flamer, and it has so many heat sinks that it can come very close to alpha striking without gaining a bunch of heat. If you fire all the short-range weapons, you're going to sink extra heat, actually. You're going to have heat sinks left over. So you can kind of work that PPC in even at very close range. And the thing does not carry very much explosive ammo. And when it comes to the ammo, a thing that I like about it for a 3025 mech is that the ammo is packed into the center torso. A lot of people don't like center torso ammo. And yeah, in later eras when you can get case, it's nice to put your ammo in the side torsos to get the protection of case. But if you're gonna put unprotected ammo in a mech, the best place is the center torso. I mean, the best place is the head, but that's super cheap, right? Like it's very munchkin-y to put ammunition in the head. But in the center torso, think about it. If you're getting a crit on the center torso, the mech is in really bad shape, really bad trouble anyway. Sure, you'd rather get an engine hit, but not by much. So in terms of what we might call the opportunity cost, ammunition in the center torso is not bad at all. So this mech is just really resilient. The only time you'll ever get an ammo hit is when the mech is pretty much dead anyway, and you're receiving crits in your center torso. And it is a powerful close-range combatant. It's got a PPC for longer ranges. This thing rocks. This is an awesome mech. It's not ultra powerful compared with later mechs, but the fact that you're only paying 1,300 some battle value for this is a steal. The Devastator, right? I've already talked about the Devastator elsewhere on the channel when I was reviewing the mechs from the Mercenaries box set. But yeah, I mean, this thing is a long-range bombardment machine. You know, 2 Gauss rifles, 2 regular PPCs, I should say. There's nothing to complain about here, especially when you've got a whole bunch of medium lasers to back you up. You know, this thing is devastating, literally. It's got all the heat sinks you'll ever need. It's got all the armor you'll ever need. It does have an extra light engine, so it's got that vulnerability, but that's really the only weakness that the mech has. And it's not so bad because there's no ammunition on board that could explode, and the Gauss rifles are explosive, but they're in the arms. So if one of those explodes, it isn't necessarily going to be causing side torso crits, okay? Some damage will get through to the side torso, so you will have a chance for a crit, but it's not going to auto-destroy the side torso in the way that a Gauss rifle that's in the side torso would. So this mech is really resilient compared with alternatives like the Pillager or the, what's it called, the Thunderhawk. Brain fart there. Another great Lyran assault mech, the Salamander, okay? It's like an Awesome except with LRM-20s instead of PPCs. And it's faster, so it's not really that much like an Awesome at all, actually, because it goes 4.6, so it can keep up with heavy mechs. You know, I've used this mech in some games, and I really like it. It's, you know, it's got really great long-range power. It works really well if you try to combine it with a narc launcher. You know, you shouldn't bet on narcs working, but if they do, you know, if you land a narc on something and then you shoot it a bunch of times with the Salamander, you're going to do a lot of extra damage. And the battle value price for this thing is really cheap. You know, 3 devastating long-range weapons and maximum armor, and you're paying less than 1,800 battle value. It's a really good deal. Of course, part of the reason why it's a really good deal is that it's got a lot of extra ammo on board. So if you're playing a game that's not going to go for 18 turns, you better be dumping ammo with this mech, you know, probably on the first turn of the game. But that's really the only flaw here. You know, it's a really nice mech for the battle value cost. Now let's look at another lighter, faster mech that the Lyrans do well. This is the Nightsky. Okay, this thing is kind of like a mini Wraith, except it doesn't go quite as fast. It's a 6.96, so really what it's like, you might think of it as like a super Phoenix Hawk. And what makes it super is that, compared with most Phoenix Hawks, it's armed with pulse lasers. And of course, pulse lasers for a jumping mech are the holy grail, right? Pulse lasers, they cancel out that jumping movement modifier and more, so that you can jump wherever you want, usually into the back arc of an enemy mech, and just blaze away with those lasers and have a great chance of hitting. You know, the hatchet, I could take or leave it. It doesn't really, I mean, a lot of the time you're going to want to kick anyway, because kicking is more accurate than using a hatchet. You know, I don't super care about the hatchet. I usually don't use it on this mech, honestly. Sometimes I use it, but the actual weapons, the ranged weapons, the pulse lasers, are excellent, and the armor is good. You know, this is a really nice mech. And look at the battle value, right? Less than 1,200 battle value for this kind of close range jumping attack package. You know, this mech is pretty awesome for the battle value. Another iconic Steiner mech is the Hauptmann, right? It's German for captain. The problem is, I mean, the Hauptmann is an incredibly good chassis. It's a 95-ton mech, max armor, with a standard engine, so it does not go down easy. The problem is that most of the Hauptmann configurations are not armed in a very optimal way at all. The best one is this E variant, I think, because it is loaded with pretty efficient weapons, plasma rifles, a Gauss rifle, and multi-missile launchers. You know, those are all some of the better weapons that the game has to offer. So this mech, you know, it would be nice to have a bigger arsenal in some ways, but the weapons that it has are really excellent. And it's got pretty good heat sinks to kind of cover the heat that those are going to generate. So this is a strong mech. It's not crazy strong, especially for the battle value, but it's also definitely not weak for the battle value, especially given how long it's going to be sticking around, how hard it's going to be to destroy this mech. Probably the best light mech that is characteristic of House Steiner is the Spectre, and I want to draw your attention to this variant, which has stealth armor. Okay, it doesn't make optimal use of the stealth armor, but it also doesn't pay very many battle value points for the stealth armor. It's really not appreciably, it's not really higher in battle value cost than the regular Spectre. And it has a medium pulse laser instead of 2 regular mediums, which on a jumping mech, that's actually pretty good. So I think this is a good design. A lot of the game, you're going to not necessarily want to have the stealth armor activated, but sometimes you will, and it can be quite useful. So this is a nice mech. It's a little bit expensive compared with some other 7 jumpers, like the Wraith or like the Venom, which we've talked about before. I would certainly take a Venom, one of the versions of the Venom that have decent armor. I would take one of those over a Spectre. So the Spectre is not the best, but it's good enough. It is good. A signature Lyran weapon is the heavy Gauss rifle. And a nice platform for it that I want to highlight is this Steiner Marauder 2. Okay, 100-ton mech, max armor, a light engine, so it will stick around if it loses a side torso. Jump 3, like any Marauder 2. You know, it's pretty nice. You pay a lot of battle value for it, okay? But what you get for that is the hitting power of that heavy Gauss rifle, which is a super powerful weapon, and some great backup weapons, including 2 ERPPCs. And you got some medium lasers, you know, for if something gets up close and you need to fire one of the arms at it. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's not rocket science. It's a good 100-ton mech. It's not, for the battle value, it's not an absolutely amazing 100-ton mech. There are better deals out there, but it's not a bad deal. I could totally see playing with it. Now, I came into this with, you know, the thought, the Zeus is crap. I know it's like the most famous Lyran mech, but I'm not going to include a Zeus because Zeuses suck. But actually, then I kind of was paging back through the designs in Mega Mech, and I realized, whoa, there is a Zeus that doesn't suck. I had actually never seen this mech before I decided to make this video, and I'm really glad I did decide to make the video because this mech is pretty good. You know, it is the same battle value cost as that Salamander, and it has considerably worse armor than the Salamander, but look at the weapons. Gauss rifle, 2 LRM-15s, ER large laser. This thing gets right to the point, all long-range weapons. It is a murderous sniper mech. You know, you put this thing in a gun line and it will perform. The only thing is you need to protect it because it does not have short-range weapons to protect itself. But yeah, I mean, that's part of how it is to play smart. You know, you got to protect your gun line mechs. Yeah, this is a really nice mech. It is vulnerable. It's got an extra light engine and not that much armor, but the armor placement is pretty good, you know? This is about as much of a glass cannon mech as I would ever feel okay playing with in BattleTech. It is a bit of a glass cannon, but you do get a lot of hitting power for what you pay. Classic Lyran Commonwealth light mech is the Wolfhound, and the WLF2, the kind of 30-50 version, is to me the quintessential Wolfhound. For a 35-ton mech, this thing is an absolute zombie. It's as resilient as a 35-ton mech can be in this period. It's got just a nice laser armament. There's nothing to complain about here. The speed is okay, you know, it would be good to have faster speed, but it's enough to make it work. It's a good kind of bodyguard mech. It's a good backup mech for your brawlers. You know, you kind of send it forward next to your brawling mech, and then maybe it kind of inches around the rear when the enemy is fighting the brawling mech. So if you combine it with that Thunderbolt, I think that would be a pretty dynamite combination. The battle value, it's a good deal, but not a great deal. Now the Fafnir is a mech that shows up for the Lyran Commonwealth during the Civil War, and you know, it is pretty iconic. It's kind of like a big gun mech. You know, you got 2 heavy Gauss rifles. This X variant with improved heavy Gauss rifles I think is the best one, because the improved heavy Gauss rifle, it does more than 20 damage at all ranges. Pretty impressive, right? You definitely pay a lot of battle value for this mech, but you hit with just 2 big blasts, you know, with those rifles. So you're getting a lot for that. It's worth the battle value, but you know, you do pay a lot for it. There are definitely better battle value deals in the game. And let me finish with just one more light mech that breaks that stereotype of the Steiners only fielding assault mechs. This is the Stiletto. So there's a bunch of versions of the Stiletto, but the best one for sure, I would say, is this 3070 variant, the C. The chassis is really well designed with excellent armor and a light engine, so it's well protected, and it just has nice weapons for a light mech. 2 ER mediums and a multi-missile launcher 5. What that means is you can plink at long range with the equivalent of an LRM-5, but when you get up close, you've got something that's kind of like an SRM-6. You know, it's an SRM-5. So you're getting in short-range missile fire to back up those medium lasers. So this is a very nice, light, fast, short-range mech that also has the ability to get in a few hits at longer ranges. Very useful, very resourceful. You know, and it's a pretty good deal for the battle value price. So I recommend this mech if you're playing as a Lyran Commonwealth player and you don't know what to take. This is a nice way to spend under 1,000 battle value points on something that is going to be, you know, like a Locust, but way more effective in terms of the weapons and way more resilient in terms of the armor. So I hope you enjoyed this little tour through some of the best mechs that the Lyran Commonwealth has to offer. You know, there are probably some that I missed, so let me know what I missed in the comments, but I'm confident that if you pick some of the mechs that I've shown you today, the next time you play as a Lyran player, you'll do pretty well. These mechs are solid performers, and I recommend all of them to you.